Alrighty, y'all. Now that we got through that, man, Big 12 Media Day, so much news has come out of that. First of all, I want to quickly touch on K-State, and boy, those boys are looking sharp. They looked amazing in their suits. The fits they had were fantastic. But we're not just talking about that because everything that was said at Big 12 Media Day is right on the money. Coach Kleiman is doing an amazing job building this program, and the pieces that he's adding, the kids he's recruiting for the future for Kansas State looks so bright. It's crazy to think about, and as fans, we're going to talk about it because it's just incredible. The things that Coach Kleiman and Connor Riley and Matt Wells and just Gene Taylor, all of them as a whole, what they are doing for K-State football is amazing to see. Coach Kleiman is building a fantastic roster. He is bringing in even more great recruits, even more from the state of Kansas coming in. We've had a few in the last few days that have announced their recruit or commitment to K-State, and that's crazy. I mean, we got just today, we learned that Austin Moore's brother, Ashton Moore, has committed to K-State. Let's bring in the whole family. I mean, we've had the whole family basically of the Locketts, and what the Lockett family means to K-State Nation is absolutely incredible because they have brought us so much joy, and their passion for K-State and wanting to make this program great. Man, seeing Tyler Lockett in the NFL and doing the great things he's done for years and years in the NFL, coming from K-State, and before that, his father and his uncle both played for the Wildcats. So we like to keep family tradition here at K-State. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see, and we are so glad to be able to see that as fans. And we are so happy to support all of the former K-State players to make them want their kids and their relatives to come be a part of our family as well. The K-State family is absolutely amazing, and we welcome you guys, you new recruits, to the team and to the family, because the excitement around this roster, not just for this year, but for the future after that, man, the potential is insane. The sky is really the limit for this team, and you can't deny how exciting this team could really be. And talking about this year, we have probably the best backfield one of the best backfields in the entire nation. We have the best backfield in the Big 12 by far, but we may have the best big backfield in the entire nation. And that is absolutely awesome, because when you look at the pure talent that Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards, those three pieces alone make this backfield one of the scariest in college football. And the fact that these guys are young, DJ Giddens is going into his junior year. That means if he doesn't break out and become an NFL draft pick, and he stays for one more year with Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson, I mean, honestly, you cannot deny the fact that that is a scary, scary, scary team to have to face in college football. And it's not just those three. Those three are not going to make up this entire offense. We have great playmakers. Jace Brown is an amazing wide receiver, and he's young. He's got a lot of potential, and he's growing and getting better with every rep that he makes. The connection that him and Avery Johnson have is absolutely awesome to see. And it's not just him. Avery Johnson's connection to every single player on this team, not just on the offensive side, on the defensive side as well, is exactly what you want from a leader and your quarterback in the Big 12. We are set up in a position where we could be a powerhouse team, a top 10 team, a top 5 team, a national championship team very, very easily. And it's not out of the question. I'm not crazy for saying that. K-State has a lot of potential, and just the excitement going into this year is crazy to think about, because I'm excited as can be. I mean, you know that. I can't deny that. I can't hide that from you guys. And I love talking about it so much because it brings me so much joy to know that the potential of this team is a national championship. It really is. And if you don't think that K-State has the potential this year and in the future to win a national championship, you haven't been paying attention to this team at all. Because, man, the way these kids work to get better every single game, the progress we're going to see from even the end of last year with these players to now. You take the Pop-Tart Bowl to mid-season, and you're going to see so much growth and so much more potential out of this team. And even before that, the potential was already sky high. It's just that they're only getting better with every day that passes. And I believe that K-State is going to be a powerhouse team and a national championship contender in the now and in the future as well, because the culture they are building there under Coach Kleiman and Matt Wells and Connor Riley, the entire team, the entire coaching staff, Gene Taylor is an athletic director, everybody is working together to build the best team they possibly can, and that will be set up for future success no matter what comes. It's beautiful to see as a K-State fan and a Big 12 fan. I want to see that from every Big 12 team, not just K-State, but I'm excited that K-State is the team that has the most potential right now to compete for a national championship. And I'm not saying that other teams don't have that potential, because they absolutely do. The Big 12 has several teams that really, really could play for a national championship. And I will not discredit those teams at all. I will not discredit them, because the work they are putting in, the rosters they are building, the history they have, just the programs they have are absolutely amazing. And I can't deny, as a Big 12 fan, I can't deny the fact that Utah and Oklahoma State and several other teams in the Big 12 could really compete for a national championship. It's not out of the question. The Big 12 is so strong from the top to the bottom. It's unreal. And when you look at, I'll use this as an example. When you look at the bottom teams in the Big 12 and you compare them to middle of the pack ACC schools, well, a little higher up on the ACC scale. But Big Ten and SEC schools, you take their middle of the pack, our lowest teams are competitive and could beat them very easily. I'm not saying that they would beat them easily. I'm just saying that it's not hard to think about the fact that our lowest teams could beat middle of the pack teams in any of these other conferences. And that's our bottom team. If that's what our floor is right now, think about the potential in the future. Really. I mean, the potential here is absolutely insane. And we have a commissioner that is so dedicated to making sure this conference not only competes with the SEC and the Big Ten, he wants to surpass them. And I said that several weeks ago on the show. I said it then, and I will repeat it again right now. The Big 12 has the potential in 5 to 10 years that they could be the powerhouse conference. They could potentially surpass the Big Ten and the SEC. I know you think I'm crazy for thinking this, but I'm not. And I'll tell you why. Look at Brett Yormark. Look at what he has done since he took over as commissioner of the Big 12. Around the same time last year, we were talking about there was some talk of maybe adding the Four Corner schools. And right after Big 12 Media Day, those talks intensified. The sources kept coming out and saying, there's wheels spinning on this, pay attention. And very, very shortly after, suddenly the Big 12 announces the addition of the Four Corner schools. And this is the exact same situation that we were in a year ago. It's not insane to think about. And I'll tell you why. Because right now, the Big 12 has its pick of any ACC school that it wants to add. I honestly believe that. There's no doubt in my mind, no question from me whatsoever. The Big 12 can take any school it wants out of the ACC. And as we were going through Media Day, once again, our sources kept bringing up the conversation of Florida State and Clemson. Florida State and Clemson have been in talks with the Big 12 for quite a while now. It's really not a secret. It really isn't. And the fact that they are not an AAU school, so they can't enter the Big Ten, only makes that door open even wider. And I'll tell you something else. I have sources that tell us that they were talking to the Big Ten and the SEC slightly, but those talks have gone absolutely nowhere. Guess what? The Big 12 has been in talks with them and continues to be in contact with Florida State and Clemson about bringing them aboard on the Big 12 ship. I said it before and I will say it again. When it comes to college realignment and expansion, the Big 12 has the most potential out of all three. Now, I don't know that I necessarily believe that at the end of this, the ACC will completely disband. They may retain a few members that want to hold the name, and that's fine. But they're going to end up being like the American Conference, where they're not in the Big Three when this is all said and done because all of their great members have left to the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC. Not only is Florida State and Clemson been in contact with the Big 12, but as we reported several weeks ago on the show, the Big 12 had 7 or 8 other schools contact them about joining. And those wheels are still turning. They're still in contact with these schools. And the momentum is doing nothing but picking up speed. And man, it is such a crazy thought that 4 years ago you would have thought, man, I don't know what the future of the Big 12 holds. Suddenly Brett Yormark comes in and blasts the door wide open. It's crazy. He has done such an amazing job as commissioner, and he is so dedicated to not only just the conference and making it stay relevant, he wants to make this conference better than the Big Ten and the SEC. He doesn't just want to compete with them, he wants to surpass them and make sure that everybody knows the Big 12 is a powerhouse conference. Not just now, in the future. And for the future to come, the Big 12 will be a powerhouse conference. Because honestly, I'll say if because you never know. I'll say it. If Florida State and Clemson decide to join the Big 12, I'll say this. Do you really, really think that the Big 12 would stop there? Maybe add a third team. Do you think they'd stop there? No, they absolutely will not stop. As Brett Yormark said in his speech at Big 12 Media Days, if we pause, if we take a step to slow down, then we lose all momentum that we have. We are keeping this train rolling down the tracks, and very, very, very soon, it is going to be an absolutely unstoppable force. And really, when you look at the floor of the Big 12 and the ceiling of these other conferences, our floor may not be their ceiling, but it's pretty darn close. I mean, because what does the Big 12 have to lose by being this aggressive? Absolutely nothing. The Big 12 is going to expand. I've said that before. And I believe that 6 teams by the end of this year, the Big 12 will add at least 6 teams. And then maybe with the potential in the future to add 4 more. Maybe. Potentially. Depending on who's available, who talks to the Big Ten, who talks to the SEC. What talks come of that, you don't know. But I'll tell you, the Big 12 is setting itself up to be the best conference in the entire nation. He doesn't want to be the 3rd best conference in the nation. He wants to be the absolute best. And Brett Yormark, as fans of the Big 12, we are so thankful to have a commissioner that literally cares so much about our conference that he is risking it all to be the best conference in the nation. And I don't mean risking it all as in he's making risky moves. No, every single move that Brett Yormark is making and has made has been very, very carefully calculated, and he has considered it every possibility that he possibly can. He is doing everything he can to make sure the Big 12 is the best conference in the nation. So for the people that are sitting there calling me crazy, I want you to take a step back, think about the realignment that we've seen, think about the direction that everything is going, listen to what Brett Yormark himself said, and understand that he is not going to let this conference die. He really isn't. This conference is an absolute powerhouse conference for years and years to come. It's not crazy to think about. It's not out of the question. And when you look at adding Florida State and Clemson and the other possibilities, the crazy thing is that, as I said a little bit ago, the Big 12 literally has its pick of these ACC schools. If they really want an ACC school, they can get them. There's no denying that. Like, you can't argue with absolute facts. And I get it. A lot of this is coming from fans of the ACC or the Pac-12 that didn't want their conference to go away. As I said before, I don't know that the ACC disbands completely. They may add in some more members from the American Conference or wherever else. But once they lose Florida State and Clemson to the Big 12, plus several other members to not only the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10, they're not going to be the powerhouse conference that they think they are. And their stability is so shaky right now that Brett Yormark is doing the best job he can to take advantage of that. There's no question that the Big 12 is absolutely amazing, and it is headed in such a great direction. It's not crazy to even think about the fact that the Big 12 could very well be the best conference in the nation in 5 to 10 years. And if you don't see that, you're looking through blinders, because it is apparent. If you listen to the sources, you listen to everybody that's involved in the situations, you listen to the comments Brett Yormark himself have made. I mean, really, how do you argue that the Big 12 doesn't have its pick of these ACC schools? You cannot argue that. It's a simple fact, and it's driven by facts. I'm not just speaking what I think here. I'm speaking off of the sources we have on the inside that are telling us what's really going on. And if you choose not to believe facts, that's on you, and we can't help you with that. I'm sorry. We will try. We'll try to educate you and try to bring you up to speed on what's really going on, because that's our job here at Tree City Sports. But when you sit there and argue that the ACC isn't so unstable that the Big 12 doesn't have its pick of any member that it wants, you're the crazy one. And I get it. I refrain from calling people crazy, but I have to defend myself in this situation, because honestly, who looks crazy now? I said that several weeks ago, and man, back then it really seemed like that was an odd thing to say. But I had sources back then, and I have sources now that are telling me to tell you to believe in what I'm saying. I'm not just speaking out of randomness here. I am using facts and what is actually going on the inside to report to you that the Big 12 is going to be a powerhouse conference for years and years to come. It's not out of the question, and it's not that crazy to think about, no matter what you think. I personally think that there is absolutely no way in the world that the ACC retains even its top 7 members, 8 members, because I believe that almost all of the ACC schools will go to the Big Ten, the SEC, and most of them will go to the Big 12. And you know what? We are welcome to that, because it does nothing but add strength to this conference. It also adds to the depth of the conference. And honestly, right now, the depth of the Big 12 is so much stronger than the ACC, the SEC, and the Big Ten. You can't deny that. The SEC and the Big Ten, and the ACC especially, only have a few members that may or may not compete for a national championship or a college football playoff spot. They may have 3 or 4 members from the SEC or the Big Ten that really compete. But guess what? In the Big 12, that could be any one of our members. Honestly, it really could. It's not out of the question, and it's not crazy to think about. The Big 12, in terms of depth, from our top team to our bottom team, is stacked so solid, it's insane. And you can't deny that, even if you're an ACC fan hoping that the ACC stays alive. There's hope the ACC stays alive, but not in its current format right now. And it's not going to be a power conference. These schools, Florida State, Clemson, Duke, every single one of these schools, North Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Pitt, all of these schools, and the list goes on and on and on, that they, as themselves, see what's about to happen. And there's a reason why they're trying to get out of the ACC. And once Florida State and Clemson does, that's it. The rest of them are going to follow. Maybe not all. Who knows? Maybe Pitt actually stays behind in the ACC, but I don't believe that. I really don't. And it's one of those deals that if the Big 12 wants to add 6 teams to the conference by the end of the year. Let's just go down this hypothetical for just a second. If the Big 12 adds 6 teams by the end of this year, how do you decide the last 3 teams in and who gets left out? You really can't. The Big 12, because of the position that it is in right now, man, it is crazy to think about. It really is. But it's not that crazy to think about the potential that the Big 12 really has. The Big 12 is setting itself up for not only success right now, but in the future. And a few of the comments that I heard and I read were, well, they're not gonna get enough funding to spread to all these schools. They're not gonna make enough to spread that revenue to all these new schools. What do you think that naming rights really does here? Do you honestly believe that selling the naming rights, if done in the right way, which is what Brett Yormark is currently working on, he isn't just rushing through this to get a deal done just to be splashy. No, he is being very, very considerate, and he is taking his time vetting every single option that he could possibly have in terms of the naming rights. And adding these naming rights deals only expands the possibility even more of the Big 12 expanding, they will be able to use that revenue and the added revenue from bringing in more schools from the ACC or wherever they come from, what it means for the conference. It just means so much more. They will be able to spread out more revenue through to all of the Big 12 teams because of the naming rights deal. And the naming rights deal, and because of the extra revenue that can be spread here, we have a possibility that the Big 12 does not stop at 6 teams. Maybe they announce right off by the end of this year or the beginning of football season next year in 2025, maybe the Big 12 announces 6 new members. That does not mean they will not be in talks with other teams from other conferences about joining. And honestly, it's not that crazy to think about. The Big 12 is set up in the best position that it can possibly be in, and there's no denying the fact that the potential of the Big 12, the sky really is the limit. You can't look at this conference and the moves they have made recently and are currently making and think to yourself that this conference isn't a powerhouse conference. It absolutely is a powerhouse conference. And the Big 12, as I said before, and I will say again and again and again, the Big 12 will be a powerhouse conference for years and years to come. It's not out of the question, and it's not crazy to think about. I know the Big 10 and the SEC, they really think they have miles of length on us. They are so far ahead of us, they think it's not even a thought to them. But that's exactly why you should be paying attention and you should be looking at where this is going to go. Because if you're not ready for it, the Big 12 is going to hit you like a freight train, and suddenly you're going to realize, man, the Big 12 is suddenly the best conference in the nation. No, it's not suddenly the best conference in the nation, because it's what we've been building and what we are continuing to build. So their miles of distance between us is not realistic. It's more of a few hundred feet. Like, we could catch up in very, very short amount of time. It's not crazy to think about. In 5 to 10 years, the Big 12 will either be exactly on par with the SEC and the Big 10, or they will have surpassed them. No question in my mind whatsoever. Every source I've talked to and everything that I've personally witnessed in the Big 12, what's going on in expansion, and listening to Brett Yormark's own comments, the commissioner's comments himself, proves that this conference is the best in the nation, and it's going to be. And it's going to be unquestionable. When you realize the Big 12 is the best, there's going to be no questioning it. It's going to be, yeah, where did this come from? We've spent years and years building this conference from what it was to what it is. It's not crazy to think about. The Big 12 is set up in such a wonderful position that you cannot deny the possibility that in 5 to 10 years, the Big 12 will show itself as the best conference in the entire nation. I know it looks crazy. It sounds crazy. I know you think I might be a little bit cuckoo for saying this. Lock me away. Throw away the key. That's fine. If you choose not to believe the facts and not to see the wheels that are really spinning on this, we can't do anything to help you. All we can do is tell you the facts that we know and what wheels we know are actually spinning on this. And believe me, there are big, big wheels spinning really fast on this. Do not count out the Big 12 in any way, shape, or form. One other thing I want to touch on really quick is there was discussion throughout Big 12 media days. It was discussed several times about the Big 12 moving the basketball tournament to Las Vegas from Kansas City. And the biggest argument for that is the fact that in their minds, nobody wants to go to Kansas City. We'd rather go to Vegas. Yes, Vegas is a premier travel destination and looks amazing to have as your center for your basketball tournament. There really isn't denying that. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't be a great option for the Big 12 to explore. But what I will say is for you to, within a very short time, move the Big 12 tournament to Las Vegas, which is only the center of four new schools that recently joined the conference out of Kansas City, which is a great location for the rest of the Big 12 teams. Oklahoma City would also, and they hosted the Big 12 tournament in years past. Before it moved to Kansas City, it was held in Oklahoma City. Honestly, Oklahoma City is a really great center where all of the teams could very easily travel. And it's like in Kansas City, man, I dislike Iowa State fans very, very much. They have given themselves a bad rep, and the way they act at games is just childish. But I will say how much I love Iowa State's fans because of the fact that when it comes time for the Big 12 tournament, there's so many Iowa State fans that make that trip and they stay the entire weekend and go to every game. These are great fans. They really are. They love their team. No matter how much they upset you or how annoying they are, it doesn't matter. I have to show appreciation to Iowa State fans because of how well they travel to the Big 12 tournament. And we go every year. Personally, I go every year, and I try to take one or two of the kids with me. And it's just an amazing experience, the whole atmosphere, everything they have going on outside, the whole area in the Power and Light District is absolutely incredible. If you've never been to the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, I highly recommend that you do that. Absolutely put it on your bucket list. Go do it. And if you do, and you see us at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, absolutely do not be afraid to come up, say hi, come hang out with us. We want to talk to all fans of all Big 12 members. I'm a fan of the Big 12 so much that I would put my personal differences against the other Big 12 teams aside to have a great conversation with great fans from other teams. I don't hate the fans from Iowa State or KU or Colorado or the ones that get incredibly annoying sometimes. I don't hate those teams, and I'll tell you why. Because their passion for their teams, how do you not love that as Big 12 fans? You don't. You love every bit of that. I do. Personally, I love everything that makes the Big 12 stronger and deeper as a whole. And I'm all for adding even more great teams and great fan bases to this conference if it helps the Big 12 surpass the Big 10 and the SEC. And it's not out of the question that that happens in 5 to 10 years. And 10 years is stretching it because the momentum the Big 12 has right now, you can't deny that they're rolling at almost an unstoppable pace. It's crazy to think about, but it's not that crazy in reality. And I don't think that moving the basketball tournament to Las Vegas wouldn't be a great move. Like I said, I absolutely 100% understand the appeal and the desire to move the tournament to Las Vegas. I really do. It's a premier tourist destination, and if you want to have a great experience, go to Vegas. I personally never got to go there, but I'm hoping in the next few years we are able to make that trip for some reason, some sporting event or another. Maybe it'll be a Chiefs game. Who knows? That'd be awesome to go to a Raiders game. But moving the Big 12 basketball tournament to Las Vegas because it's the center of the Four Corner schools. The Four Corner schools are not the most important schools in the conference. And there's a reason for that, because there is no one school that is more important to the Big 12 than any other. I cannot sit here and say that K-State is more important to the Big 12 than KU is. Absolutely not. The Big 12 is great because of how equally awesome all of the teams are and how well we mesh together. The Big 12 really is one big happy family, and we invite every single ACC fan to just come see what it's like. Come enjoy a Big 12 game sometime. Enjoy the atmosphere. Enjoy tailgating. Go see what the games are like before you talk about not wanting to join the Big 12, because as Utah and Arizona State and Colorado fans are starting to figure out, and they even talk about how appreciative they are of the Big 12 because of how great this conference really is. They talk about how awesome our fans are, and we can rib each other all day long. We can give each other a hard time. But at the end of the day, the Big 12 is one big happy family. Who wouldn't want to be a part of a family as amazing as the Big 12? That's all I'm asking. I'm just saying, before you say that you don't want to join the Big 12, come experience what it's like to be a member. Come experience our games, our atmospheres. Because once you see how amazing the Big 12 really is from the inside, you be a fan too. There's no doubt in my mind that once you realize how great the Big 12 is, you can't help but to love the Big 12. And again, as much as I dislike other fans from other teams, Iowa State, KU, Colorado, all of those teams, I have so much respect for the fans that I love every single Big 12 fan, no matter what. And I have absolutely no personal beef with any fan from any Big 12 team whatsoever. It doesn't matter. We love the Big 12, and as fans of the Big 12, we want nothing but the best for our entire conference, not just our own teams. One other thing that needs to be discussed while we're discussing Big 12 and all of the possibilities that come with it. listening to Brett Yormark's comments about expansion of bringing games to Mexico. They've got a football game scheduled for Mexico City, I believe, in 2025. That's incredible. The international exposure for this is crazy, but it's not just that. He's looking at bringing a lot more in terms of women's soccer and baseball to Mexico as well. I mean, just the thought of that, to get that kind of extra support and gain fans in Mexico of these Big 12 teams, the international exposure is more than incredible right now, because the position that the Big 12 is setting themselves up for is crazy to think about. It's not crazy to think that we get fans from Mexico and these other places, Ireland, where K-State and Iowa State are going to play Farmageddon in 2025. Man, just the possibilities there are insanely exciting, and we cannot wait to see the Farmageddon game in Dublin. The excitement behind that is absolutely real. And again, I think this international exposure will be absolutely fantastic for the Big 12 Conference and will do nothing but help the Big 12 grow and expand to other markets. And speaking of Big 12 Media Days, we finally got to hear from Ollie Gordon and Mike Gundy himself. Now, when Mike Gundy spoke on this issue, he got ridiculed up the wall. I don't think that was as fair as what the attackers are claiming it is, because he's defending his player, and if you listen to what he says, he literally basically just said that Ollie Gordon needs to and is doing everything he can to redeem himself. I mean, he knows he messed up. He admitted it. He's taking care of it. So it's not as big of a deal as what they're making it out to be. And they're taking one snippet out of his entire comments and basing their opinion on that. He's defending his player. As a coach, I would do the exact same thing. You can't say that in that situation, you wouldn't do everything you can to protect your player, especially one of the best running backs in the entire nation. Also, let me explain something to you. I don't know how many of you realize how this works, because I get it. What he did was wrong. We're not discussing that. We're not going to excuse what he did. But he is making steps, doing everything he can to redeem himself and make up for the mistakes he made. We were all kids once. We all did dumb things. Every single one of us. And if you've never done something that was even slightly questionable, like, man, maybe that wasn't a great idea. That sounded better in my head. You can't ridicule him for that, because we've all done stupid things that we regret doing and that affects other people. Ollie Gordon is doing his best to redeem himself, and he is earning it. I believe he really is. But the thing that people do not understand is the fact that when you really, really think about it, honestly, Ollie Gordon is the best player on Oklahoma State's team. And he is one of the absolute best running backs in the entire nation. not just in the Big 12, in the entire nation, he is one of the best running backs, hands down. Can't argue with it. Don't even try. He's one of the best in the nation. And as Mike Gundy said in his statement, what's suspending him for one game going to do? Is it really going to make that much of a difference? No, it's not. You're better off doing exactly what Mike Gundy said. Make him run the ball 50 times his very first game. You know how that ends for you? You have an insane amount of rushing yards. And he makes a huge impact on the game. And you should almost consider doing that every single game. And to him, that's not a punishment because he would be eating up those stats and helping himself in the Heisman talk. He really would. Honestly, this kid is a great player, has amazing talent. Also, if you're a coach or an athletic director, a program that has a player of his caliber, that has the talent that he has, you're not gonna let him sit. You cannot afford to let him sit on the bench even one game. And again, one game isn't going to make a difference, but if you suspend him for 6 games, really, what are you doing? You're losing, as a program, you're losing your best player. You can't afford to do that because of the on-the-field product and how much weight he carries on this team because of how great of a player he is. Second, you literally cannot afford for him not to play. They are paying him so much money through the NIL and everything else that he makes too much to sit on the bench. And as Mike Gundy said, it's really getting to a point where we have to look at them as employees of these college football or college programs. I mean, it really isn't that big of a deal when you really think about it. He's going to pay enough when it comes to his court fees and his community service time that he has to serve. He's going to end up paying several thousands of dollars. He's not getting out of this lightly or cheaply by any means whatsoever. He is going to get through this just fine, though, because of the amount of money they're paying him through the NIL. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely okay to us. Because, as I said last week, anything that negatively affects the Big 12, any Big 12 fan should want to go away. How quickly after the draft did we stop talking about the wreck that involved the Georgia players? Once the NFL draft was over, it didn't take very long to stop talking about it. And this is the same situation. As Mike Gundy said, at the end of the day on Tuesday, when they had their media day, at the end of the day, he was done talking about it. That was it. It was over for him. And I feel the same way. We've talked about it. We've discussed it. It's time to move on. And you should too. As a Big 12 fan, you should want nothing but the best for every Big 12 team, no matter who they are. This has been an amazing show, and we thank you guys so much for joining. Do not forget to like and subscribe, drop a comment, tell us what you think. Tell us your thoughts. We want to hear it. We want to hear every team's perspective in the Big 12, and we are here for it. Man, until next time, y'all take care now.